Yeah, so we've got here a Sega Genesis commercial. So let's watch that. You ready?
Yeah, I'll play it now.
What's the hottest 16-bit video game system with true arcade games, great
So for
graphics,
those
real challenge, stereo sound,
listening,
and
it's a
the
kid
hottest
playing a
library
Genesis, and all
too,
these
with
games are
like
flashing by.
Beast, Golden
Space
Axe,
Harrier
Super
2,
Hang-On,
Altered Beast, Golden Axe, Super Hang-On, Forgotten Worlds, Revenge of Shinobi, Tommy Lasorda Baseball, Truxton, Last Battle, Arnold Palmer, Tournament Golf, Zoom, Thunder Force 2, Ghosts and Ghouls, Mystic Defender, Rambo 3, Sega Genesis. Now, this kid's just like losing it. So, if you can see, Alex Kidd was not mentioned, and Alex Kidd was not shown off in these early Sega Genesis ads. Now, you might be saying, well, Barry, at the beginning of the show, you did say that you learned the game was not one of the launch titles. However, in May of 1989, there were reviews already going out in print media of Alex Kidd in the Enchanted Castle. And these reviews, while not explicit, were most likely taken from Japanese imports of the game because it came out in February. And I think what backs this up is they do talk about the Jenkin. What do they call rock, paper, scissors in the Japanese version? Jenkin. Yeah. So they do talk about Jenkin, and if you play the American version of the game, they don't call it that. They call it rock, paper, scissors. So despite this, Sega did clearly know that the game would be coming out either early 1990 or late 1989, and yet they still opted not to put it in their ads. So, I mean, well, I'll read this here. So, I wrote out that despite being an early example of platformers on the console, it seemed like Alex Kidd took a back seat to celebrity-fronted games like Joe Montana and Michael Jackson, as you saw with the Genesis Does ad campaign. Arcade games like Altered Beast, and licensed platformers like Mickey Mouse. And you and I both know Al Nilsson had that famous Mickey Mouse video. That's like the first time we saw him, was where he was showing off Mickey Mouse, and he's like, look at this animation, look at that. And it wasn't there. Why do you think they just glossed over Alex Kidd? I mean, sure, it wasn't released yet, but the game was out in February, so they had the footage. They had review copies.
Because, like I said, it felt like a transitional game where its main point was to be a low-budget 16-bit title to get people that bought the Master System, which wasn't that many in America, to transition to the Sega Genesis in some areas. And I feel like you've seen Al Nilsson, he understands that in America, graphics and next generation, we're always chasing in America that that they'll sell. So he probably thought there's other games or celebrities, right? So that's his big push was look how good this game looks, or look who's on the game, Mickey Mouse / Michael Jackson or whoever it was at the time. So I could see that in his marketing perspective and the way his intentions to sell a console in America were, it makes 100% sense why he's like, this game is doesn't have the graphics, doesn't have the clout, and doesn't have a celebrity, right? So it's like kind of goes against his marketing. It's also not extreme either, so it kind of goes against the Sega Genesis branding at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I reached out to Al Nilsson, who, we're talking about him. He was the director of marketing at Sega of America from 1989 to 1993. We asked him to share his memories of the game when it released with the Genesis in August 1989, and he actually pushed back and claimed that the game was not a launch title. And I was like, wait, what? And so I thought I was done doing these notes, and I had to go back through, and I dug further. I reached out to a friend of the show, Ken Horowitz of Sega16.com, who we've actually had twice on our Swing and Report Show podcast. Like, I completely forgot we talked to him so much. And, Ken, always the helpful guy, he told us that Al had told him the following a few months ago. So this is a quote. This is what Al Nilsson said. He said, for some reason, I don't remember Alex Kidd as a launch title. I always draw a blank on this title. Also, its stock number of 1005 puts it after Ghosts and Ghouls, which kind of implies that it had it was a later title. But I just don't know for sure, but my gut says no. Stock numbers were assigned by category of game, first two numbers, and then numerically by the order they became a planned part of the product line. Sometimes they match release, and sometimes they don't. The fun of developing and marketing software. But the initial titles were pretty accurate since they were the only titles we had. So with that in mind, 1-0 would be the category, and 0-5 would be Alex Kidd. And I'm assuming categories like action-adventure. So maybe 1-0, and then 0-5 would be the fifth game, which means you're already 5 deep, and the Genesis did not launch with that many games. You know, you look at those early ads, which we'll take a look at in a little bit, but like all they show is really like Space Harrier, Thunderblade, and Altered Beast. They don't show that much more than that. So with that in mind, I referred back to an article that I had planned to show in this episode backing up Alex Kidd as a launch title. Because can you bring up the Sega's Genesis? Do you see that magazine?
The magazine one, the preview?
Yeah, like the 2 pages.
Yeah, I got it.
So if you can see it here, on the far right, it shows Alex Kidd games right there. So I was like, oh, it was a launch title. But in reading the article itself here, they do say that it's just releasing with a handful of strong titles, and they only list Space Harrier 2, Super Thunderblade. That's really it. And then they push Altered Beast. So despite being shown here on the side, like it's not clearly said that it was a launch title. It's just shown there. And worth noting too, Thunderblade did not release as a launch title. That released about 2 or 3 weeks later. So if we are just talking about games that came out August 14th, 1989, you know, the first day that the Genesis is in America, I don't think you could have bought Alex Kidd. In fact, as you'll see here, so reviews for the game, like I mentioned, they hit in May 1989, and GamePro and Video Games and Computer Entertainment Magazine had these. I think they were playing the Japanese version, which released February 89, and, well, I skimmed both of them, and they don't really mention anything like the characters losing their clothes, which would be a very clear sign that they were playing an import. They do mention Janken, and I don't think it's possible that they were playing were playing American review copies from Sega. I think they were just playing what they had on hand, and based on articles like this, they knew Alex Kidd would be releasing with the Genesis. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you want to bring up this next one, it's that multicolored ad. It has a choo-choo train and a little Cherry Mary Muffin doll.
It's up. I got it.
Yeah, so further digging showed no sign of Alex Kidd in early ads for the Genesis, only listing, and I'll list them off here, Altered Beast, Soccer, Last Battle, Super Thunderblade, Tommy Lasorda Baseball, Thunder Force 2, and Ghouls and Ghosts. And not to say that those are launch titles, but those all released within the launch window because this ad is from October 1989. Additionally, there is a Sears 1989 Christmas catalog, which I actually own.
Wow.
And I got this from a store in my neighborhood that sells like nostalgia stuff. And I was like, oh, I will buy all of these old catalogs because you can see here, it's got the Sega Genesis advertisement here with the games. Yeah. So, they're selling the Genesis for $189.95. And then the games they advertise here are Super Thunderblade, Space Harrier 2, Tommy Lasorda Baseball, Super Hang-On, Thunder Force 2, World Soccer, Ghouls and Ghosts, Last Battle. That's it.
Which one you need to buy, though? Last Battle. Remember that one?
Probably Last
Black
Battle.
Belt, too.
Yeah, right? But yeah, I mean, you can see right there, like, there's no sign of Alex Kidd anywhere. And this is the Christmas catalog. This is December now, so that pushes us up to December 1989. I will bet that Alex Kidd did not even release in 1989, despite the back of the game saying 1989 copyright. I would almost guess it was a winter or even spring 1990 release. And the only thing I really had backing that up was that there was a video on YouTube showing someone walking through a Toys R Us in 1990, and you can see Alex Kidd there. The game's priced, like I said, at $39.99, which is a little lower, but I think it might have launched at that price because sometimes they'll go like knock $5 off to look more appealing. Yeah, so there you have it. Alex Kidd was not a launch title, and I don't even think it released in 1989.
So
which just
if you have any of your YouTubers that you follow and they're making videos of them crying, talking about how Alex Kidd is one of their launch title games on the Sega Genesis, they're lying to you. Right?
Well, it just but it just goes to show that you can't rely on Wikipedia. You can't rely on Google searching Sega Genesis launch games, because time and time again you'll get lists showing Alex Kidd in the Enchanted Castle, and it's not a launch game. It's not even a launch window game, I would argue. Like, if you're releasing early 1990 and the system came out in August 1989, that's really far removed. And yet we still bundle in, like, some people might claim Super Thunderblade was, even though it released in September. So that's the news, George. Alex Kidd, not a launch title.